Good evening, everyone. How are you? How is everybody doing on this Wednesday? So, looks like we got a few people in here, and hopefully we'll have a few more joining us here in a little bit. Got a treat for you, some guests tonight that are going to come talk to you. But first, I wanted to share a little information with you that I found. So I am going to share my screen with you. Screen 2. Make sure I hit the right screen. There we go. All right. So, one of our guests found this article today. Shane did, or he found it the other day, actually. And it says, "There's gold in that creek." Well, what creek are we talking about? And it says, "Those who lived in Delphi community for 40 or 50 years might find it surprising to know their hometown has a hidden secret. However, there are others outside the local community in Indiana who know the secret. Those individuals firmly suspect that there's gold to be found in Deer Creek, and on a recent Saturday, they were in town looking for it." Now, if you notice, the date of this is March 31st, 2010. And it just goes on to talk about members of the Northern Indiana Gold Prospectors of America Association went through and was looking down by the bridge for that gold. And it's pure gold. It's 24 karat. And there's glacier gold found in Indiana in 22 karat. So this is quite the interesting little article. If you want to find it, it's called "There's Gold in That Creek." And it's by the Carroll County Comet. And when we're done with the stream, I'll put a link to this in the description below so that you have it. So I just want to say hi to everybody. Randy, welcome. Jacqueline, nice to see you. Lynn, so happy to have you here. Gloria, how are you? Worldwide Crime. Hello, everyone. Sean, hello, Marvelous and Randy and everybody. Hope you are well. Hi, Marvin and Mark. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, please. Hey, Marvin and Mark. Hi, Randy. Stories from the Stone. Finally caught alive. So glad to have you here. I'm so happy to have you here, Stories from the Stone. If you're not familiar with Stories from the Stone, you can find his Facebook page called Stories of the Stone. And he's got a lot of great information. Love to see what he's putting up every day. So go check him out. All right. So Randy, are you going to join us here?
I don't think he can get through.
Let's see here. So can everybody hear my other guest, Sean? Oh, there he is.
Hey, everyone.
So, Randy, welcome to Marvelous Investigates. I'm so happy to have you here. And on the phone, we have Sean, a.k.a. Frankmeister.
Hey, how you doing?
So, Sean, is there anything you want to say about the article that I was kind of touching on about gold by the Monon Bridge?
Yes, honestly, I do. It was kind of, well, actually, it started back in the beginning of this investigation when I started realizing there's something not right with this investigation at all. And then it comes out that they found DNA on one of the girls, and they took DNA from Keegan Klein and a hair sample. To me, it only takes 2 to 4 weeks to fast track DNA. Well, we haven't heard nothing else about it, so that's an indication that his DNA didn't match, and a familiar DNA didn't match for his father, Tony Klein. That's the indication that we're getting. So I had to look back, and I'm like, there's something wrong here. So I went back and started reviewing interviews on the phone, statements or on the news, and statements that were made. And a particular gentleman that's a figurehead in the community was wanting to buy up Ron Logan's land. And of course, Ron Logan wasn't going to give it up because it's been in the family tree. He got it passed down to him like 54 years ago, and he wasn't just going to give up his land like that. So I started thinking, well, if this gentleman wanted his land and it was refusal, and then collaborating with Mr. Randy here, and we talked about it, this gentleman also owns basically all the north side of the bridge property. Well, this gentleman also, I'll just go ahead and use his initials, DM, his cousin is AW, and she lives on one of the, where the bridges, you see that private drive, she lives there. So what he told me is they're related, they're cousins. And I said, I wonder if there's a possibility that somebody tried to set up Ron Logan to get charged with murder, be put in jail because everybody knows he had a reverse mortgage. And if he can't live on the property, he automatically loses the property. So that told me right there, what if this is an indication that he was being framed to lose his property? Now let's bring Randy in here and let him discuss what I had found.
Yeah, Randy, you know a lot about that area. So what can you tell us about, the area, the land around there, who owns what?
Okay, KW owns the land on the south side.
Is he here?
You know that.
Yep.
And on the north side, of course, Ron owns the one side of the property where the cemetery is. And
he's got his mic on?
Yeah.
You can't hear him, but he can hear you.
Okay, I'm going to put my earbuds in.
Okay.
I'll wait till he gets his earbuds in then.
That's what happens when we have one here and one on the phone. And
I was hoping you'd be able to get.
I'm here, guys.
Okay, now since
y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Shane, can you hear Randy?
Yeah, I can hear him.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. Because the DM was given the trail for free from the Mears.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing they own is that trail. And the rest is the Mears owns next door to Ron and their property. This is where they were at the beginning. We all heard they tried to buy Ron's land and Kay's land across the way. And they're still trying to that other side of the old railroad tracks line to turn that into a trail. But they would have to go through the owners on the other side and to let them have that side to turn it into a trail. But the strangest part on that particular story is that since Ron was, I think he was got some phone call to meet up with somebody at the Pizza King in Americas to keep him away from that property while the murder went on.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that way, because Ron always watches his property very well. He has a big bay window in his kitchen. He can see straight over towards the cemetery to be able to see what's going on in his land. So if they got rid of him out of the way, he won't be able to notice anybody on his property at the time of the murder. And this is why I keep on saying the killer left through the cemetery, and that's about the fastest way he would have gone to get out. And he has two different ways to leave. He would took the fork to the left that leads out to 218 that way, and then to the right on 300 it goes to in between Camden, Indiana, and Flora, Indiana. And those are the two other ways that nobody would know he was in the area and left.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
So I don't think I've seen that area that you're talking about right now.
Okay.
So when I come out in March for the memorial walk, maybe you can take me around there so I can see it.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And do the goal, people's been had groups of people going there to down Deer Creek, either on Kay Weber's land. There's another property farther down towards Wilson's Creek, Wilson's Bridge. They can stay there to start looking for gold in the creek. So basically, you would have more people there looking for gold, and this killer could have more opportunity knowing the area where he can get in and out. Here we go. All right. He would have, if he was in with those group of people trying to find gold in Deer Creek, he would have more opportunity to know the area more too.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Now, we were talking about DM.
Yeah.
Yep, go ahead, Sean. He can hear you.
Oh, okay. Now DM, both DMs actually, their parents are buried at that cemetery, correct?
Yes, it's buried at the bottom of the hill of the cemetery, where I parked my car at the bottom, showing where my car disappeared. But yes, their parents are buried in the back of that cemetery, at the bottom of the hill.
Okay, and it's my understanding that, do they live close by or no?
They live in Delphi. They live out on by another cemetery. It's called Indiana Street.
Now, scenario I'm looking.
Go ahead, Shane. Oh, we're on a delay, Shane, so go ahead and talk.
Okay. This is a scenario I'm looking at. What if we had a look out at the north end of the bridge? Okay. And then we had a look out at the cemetery.
Well, according to what people are saying, one of the brothers was at the cemetery, and the other one was down by the north end of the bridge at the same time.
So one was at the cemetery and one was at the north end of the bridge at the same time.
Yeah.
And
there was a photo of the one who went to the cemetery. He cut his leg or somehow.
Okay.
Oh, one sec, Shane.
Okay.
So the one brother, what, Randy, cut his leg?
Yeah, there was a photo of him had something. He cut his leg somehow.
Now we brought up CM.
Yep, go ahead, Shane. You're gonna still hear people talk, but the broadcast is a 5-second delay between all of us talking. So, go ahead and make your point.
We were talking about CM earlier. Randy, we talked about CM, okay? And I talked about how he has a violent and dangerous criminal record.
Yes.
And then when we talked about this person, Randy, you had given me some information about how creepy this guy was, like pedo.
Yeah, he kind of like a stalker. It seems like he was stalking Kelsey a lot. It seems like what she does on the same trail of catching. He's kind of like following right behind her for some reason, and it does give that creepy feeling. This is where they say that creepy guy. Well, that could be how Libby and Abby felt. Like, okay, this guy is real.
What's the connection between him and Libby?
Yeah, the connection would be through Kelsey. If he's following Kelsey through these geocaching, and she goes with her sister Libby all the time on the geocaching. And if they're following each other and following the two girls, then there's the connection of him following one of the girls, knowing, okay, they're going to have to be there somehow. But,
so it sounds like he was interested in Kelsey.
Yeah.
Because she was older, probably. But Libby and Kelsey go geocaching together, so he's there with both of them.
It seems that he follows them somehow. They leave messages on those geocaching sites, knowing that we'll be out here today or we're looking. So somehow he knows they're going to be out there somewhere.
Okay.
It seems like he was following whatever message that she puts. He knows that she's out there somewhere.
Okay. Let's take a break here just real quick. We're going to go through some comments that we got just so I don't get too far behind.
Okay.
You want to go to Does anybody think there are more human remains of other victims out there in that ravine? Any thoughts, Randy or Shane?
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't.
I'm reading the comments right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. No, human remains.
No.
You're welcome, Faye. Glad that you can watch. Let's see here.
But I do want to get back to the situation because if CM has contact with Kelsey, he's more likely he's got contact with Libby too.
Yeah.
And what needs to be done is to find out who Libby was in contact with that day.
Okay, so we got a comment here that says his right knee was bandaged. Who is he?
Oh, it's the DM's brother.
GM? Okay.
Because it was in a photo. And he was in a meeting at one of the Erie and Wabash.
How do we know that?
And Shane asked, how do we know that?
It was in back a couple of years ago. They were showing that photo.
Oh, they actually showed a photo a couple years ago. Thank you, TTM Fangirl. So glad that you could join us. Says Kelsey and Libby were out at the trail in October of 2016. Okay.
Okay, if the person who's asking who is CM Okay,
Yes.
CM, it would be the professor.
The professor. Yeah, we're not using names because, everybody is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. We don't want anybody to go and harass these people, so we're using initials for that reason.
Yes,
And he's the one. He was the one.
Yeah, CM is an anthropologist out of the University of Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what were you going to say, Randy?
We can just call him the professor now. So we'll just call him.
Yeah, the professor. That's a good idea.
That way people won't get confused. That's why in one of my videos that the ammo box was there and somehow it disappeared. So he had been watching my videos, figuring out where that box was.
And Randy, this is a good question. It says, and he was Kelsey's professor, right? But I thought he was Libby's professor.
Libby's professor. So it must be both sisters, I guess.
Both sisters actually took classes with him?
Probably, but all I understand it was Libby. But if he's been following Kelsey, he would know Kelsey then. Or the other thing is, because Kelsey was working at the Blue Moose, he could have gone to the Blue Moose restaurant all the time and watched her.
Oh, okay. And watched her where she worked.
Go eat there at the Blue Moose restaurant.
Oh, okay, so he liked that restaurant where she worked.
So he could have been watching her and over listening what could be doing the next day or whatnot.
Okay. TTM Fangirl, did that kind of help you? We're saying the professor? It's in a photo during a meeting with Ellie. Okay. That's okay, TTM Fangirl. Just ask questions and we'll try to help you out.
And another thing that I've realized also is that Ellie has got everybody so focused on this catfishing. And this is a ploy that police use. That the police will lie to a suspect during interrogation, which they are allowed to do, to try to get a confession out of them or get information out of them.
So, Randy, what do you know as far as law enforcement covering the professor? How much do you know about that?
Because during the time it was out there, you would have thought the law enforcement got that.
And that's why I'm kind of stuck with the catfishing.
You thought the law enforcement pick up that ammo box and fingerprints that box.
Right.
But they did not go that far. It disappeared. The box disappeared.
The box disappeared.
Yeah.
Well, and he took it, didn't he?
I think people said he had the box in a photo somewhere.
So CM had the box in a photo somewhere and would not allow law enforcement to have it.
I think he realized, well, I shouldn't have picked it up, but he went ahead and didn't, and he never he returned it, but it's been cross-contaminated with him holding the box where he had it at. So, yeah, the police should have just went there
and got it.
And
before anybody could take it.
That they could have found the killer, knowing who's been there.
Exactly. Vid Inquiries just subscribed. Hello. How are you? I haven't got to talk to you in a long time. Teresa says, congratulations at Marvelous Investigates. I didn't get notifications. I know that YouTube's having trouble with notifications. I am not getting notifications on a bunch of people that I'm subscribed to. So Lynn will drop the link for the Marvelous Investigates Facebook page. I always post on there, and on Marvelous Marvin page also. So let's see here. Do we have any other questions? I've always believed Libby was catfished. Here we go. There's another professor at Purdue that was Kelsey's. His initials are KF. Any thoughts on that? Randy, are you familiar with who she's talking about?
No, not really.
I'll have to get more information from you, Vid Inquiries, and look into that name. He took it away very soon afterwards. Okay. Let's see here.
Another thing that I realized is that, when Keegan got that interview through HLN, and when they asked him the question, did he have anything to do with the murder of Libby? And he basically said no, and he said that, and they asked him if he was going to be charged, and he says he doesn't think so. And he was pretty confident in that.
Yeah, I thought he was very confident in that too, and that kind of surprised me because of all of the talk of the Anthony Schatz profile. What do you think, Randy? Are you leaning towards he's involved or not involved?
Well, since he's talking to Libby the last time on her channel before
that's why I'm
the
leaving
murder
away from the catfishing.
Yeah. But somebody else knew they were going to be out there.
Somebody else knew?
Yeah, I don't think Keegan Klein did not know they were going out there. It would have been said in the comments on her webpage to Keegan Klein saying, yeah, we're going out to the bridge. There would be millions of people watching that page. But who's the real killer of the girls? And I think
that's why I said they need to know who she was in contact with that day.
Yeah. And she spent up all night. She stayed up all night, but she still wanted to go to that bridge.
Right. You would have thought those girls would have slept in till noon after staying up most of the night, and they didn't.
No, and they didn't. Especially, but they begged Kelsey to take them to that bridge so much.
Right. So there was a reason they wanted to go that day.
Yeah, there's some reason, whatever it was a reason to go.
Well, and I think too, they said that Becky said that the girls had to find a ride there and find a ride back.
Yeah.
Didn't I hear that Libby actually called her dad once they
got on the way to the bridge.
On the way to, so he pretty much didn't have a choice but to go pick him up.
Yeah. She knew how to talk to her dad a certain way. Like, okay, Dad said yes at the house, but I'll call on the way there and tell Dad, can you come back and pick us up?
Right. The little girl has the daddy wrapped around her finger. Yeah. Yes. He would do anything for her, is what I heard. Okay. So, all right, Shane, what's next?
I've got, my thought is that like when Derek was rocking the trail and he ran into DM and he asked DM if he had seen the girls and he said no, and well, I was getting to that and
go ahead. Did I lose you?
And DM said no, that he had seeing people arguing under the bridge.
No, there was no people underneath the bridge.
Yeah, I have not heard that the DM said that there was people arguing under the bridge. What I've heard is that Derek said, "Have you seen these girls?" And he goes, "No, but there's a couple by the bridge."
Well, then when he was asked if he get a description of the suspect supposedly, and DM was asked if he seen him in space, and DM said, "No, I didn't see his face, but he walked right by him."
And that would be Cheyenne and her friend only.
So you're saying, Randy, that would have been Cheyenne and her friend on the bridge?
Yeah. So anything, that's probably what DM saw, and it was those.
Now, as far as the photos from Cheyenne and DP, tell us a little about the photos, Randy, that the police wanted from Cheyenne and DP.
Okay, now Cheyenne took several different photos that day. She was standing pretty much practically where the killer was standing when Libby took the filming of the killer crossing the bridge at that time. So Cheyenne on that day was taking a lot of photos, and she should have had a photo of the killer. If she had all kinds of photos, and she had one of those better cameras, can zoom into where the Mears property was, and could have took the killer's photo. And that's where Dean says, "Well, we seen the guy come by me, but that means Cheyenne should have saw."
Now, what about supposedly searcher found some undergarments and a shoe in the creek?
The shoe, one shoe was still on Libby's foot. The other shoe was over on Kate Weber's property, where the phone was found.
Okay, so you're saying one shoe was on Libby's foot, the other shoe was where now?
On Kate Weber's side land. So somehow,
by the private drive.
No, close to the creek. So somehow
closer to the creek, down the hill.
Somehow that shoe came off Libby's foot. So she crossed the creek with one shoe on and whatever sock and foot going through the water to get across the creek.
Okay.
So the rest is where we get to on Ron Logan's property of how and when did the clothes start to disappear.
Right.
And Cheyenne should have saw.
And what about when they did the initial search the day they went missing, and people walked up and down that creek and swear they did not find any undergarments, but the next day the searchers found some undergarments under the bridge?
Where the logs are backed up underneath the foundation.
Right.
And I was telling Sean that the law enforcement didn't even try to dismantle those logs by the foundation to see if there's any other clue. They didn't undo those logs. They should have known. They should have reviewed those logs to see if there's any other clues or evidence are in there still. And that's why I was telling Sean.
Okay, so here's my thing is, Randy, what do you think about this? If there was clothes by those logs underneath the foundation, you had Cheyenne and her friend there, you had the family that was searching all around, wouldn't they have seen those clothes?
Yeah, they would have saw the clothes. If they're that close to that creek, they would have saw the floating clothes, especially if Cheyenne's taking photos. Human eyes can see more things than down the creek. Even if you're standing in the middle of the creek, you can still see something floating down the creek. including the
Right.
north end of the bridge. You can see because the killer knew he was standing farther back behind the trail, on the north end of the trail, watching Libby and Abby and Libby taking photos of herself off her cell phone.
Yeah.
And he already knew Libby had the phone because how she carries the phone, texting, and everything else. And the killer would know she had the phone. So what was the use of trying to hide the phone? The killer already knew that she had the phone.
So the killer knew she had the phone. Why do you think he didn't take it?
Don't know. Either if she dropped the phone enough to get ahead, like I said, if the killer rolled down the side of that hill, Libby then would say, hey, okay, we got our chance. Let's run.
It was basically like he didn't care that she had the phone.
Right.
Okay.
And if he did, he would have picked up that phone, put it in his pocket, and took it with him, even though the battery's dead. And he would make sure somehow to check and see if there was anything important about him.
So have you heard through the grapevine or anything where that phone was actually found?
It was on Kay property. That's all I can tell you. It was on Kay's property, and it wasn't that far from the shoe.
So it wasn't that far from the shoe.
Correct, yeah.
On Kay's property before they crossed the river.
Right, before it crossed the creek, yeah.
So she could have fallen there and lost her shoe and the phone.
Yeah.
And then he may have looked for it later and couldn't find it.
Maybe not, because if he wanted to get out of there, he wanted, after killing...
I'm thinking he's not going to backtrack across that river.
Right. No, he would want to get out of there as soon as possible. And the cemetery would be the fastest way to leave. He would not want to go back on the trail to be seen.
Yeah, somebody's asking, wasn't the phone smashed? Maybe he damaged it thinking it was broken and not usable?
That I have not heard.
Okay, you haven't heard anything about that?
No, I just know that the phone was found that far from where the shoe was.
Well, let's put it this way, guys. I was in the military, and I know the woods very well, and there's no way that anybody would backtrack to go back the way he came. If you're going to commit a crime, you want to get out there as quick as possible, and...
Yeah, get out of there as quick as possible and not backtrack.
Yeah, cemetery is the fastest way, and...
Here's a prime example. During the Osama bin Laden raid, their job was to get in there, do what they had to do, and get out of there without being noticed.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know the shoe. You're saying the shoe was on the south side, so was the phone.
Yeah.
That would explain to me why he didn't take it. He couldn't find it.
Well,
he may have planned on taking it.
I think he was in a hurry trying to catch the girls.
Right.
More better than worrying about the food or the phone. He wanted those girls.
But he probably didn't even see the phone fall because he was too busy focused on the girls.
Yeah, after he fell down the side of the hill trying to catch up, and gave Libby and Abby a chance to run. So, in side of the hill with all those leaves, yeah, you can slip and slide, and then I bet his focus is just trying to catch up with the girls. And I was telling Sean the same thing. I said, one, Libby's pants and shoes would be wet. Abby's pants.
What do you think of the stage? If there was a staged crime scene there, Randy?
No, I don't think it was a staged crime scene. I think he was trying to do as much as he can of not leaving any evidence behind to link to him as much. I think that's what he was trying to do, is trying not to leave any type of much evidence behind. to link, but like we don't know what evidence they have from the crime scene. And even though they had people walking around that crime scene that day, cross-contaminating the crime scene, so we won't know what they have
Right.
from that. And they had people saying those girls wasn't there when they were on Ron Logan's property. I was like, well, they were there. How could you not miss two girls?
Right.
And it was a clear day.
That makes it just as hard for them to determine what evidence they have that's good for their investigation.
Yes. No, I agree.
And like you said, Randy, if they were standing at the top of the hill right there on the Weaver property, if you look straight down, they should have seen the girls the first day.
Yeah, on Kate Weber's property on top of the hill, they can see across, and that's why I told the homicide detective, if you stand there, you would have saw those girls. And I don't know how in the world that nobody else could ever not seen those girls from the top of the hill.
Have you heard where Libby's tie-dyed shirt was? Was it by her, or was it part of these clothes by the bridge?
I have not heard where the tie-dye shirt was.
Okay. Well, the only thing I'm thinking is because Abby had the gray sweatshirt on.
Well, she had the pink shirt and the hooded gray shirt on.
Right, the hooded sweatshirt. Yeah. So maybe whatever angle she was at, she blended in enough to where they didn't see her. Well, but if Abby's tie-dyed shirt, or if Libby's tie-dyed shirt was anywhere near them, they should have seen that.
Well, yeah, but with the tree being brown, gray, that hooded gray shirt will be more seeable.
Okay.
Because if you take a look, if you stuck that bright color like gray or any other colors, especially Abby's pink shirt, you would have saw that leaning against a tree.
Yeah, that's true.
And since Libby was covered up with twigs and leaves, yeah, that would be a difference of not seeing her shirt.
Right.
So this guy was doing his best to cover up somebody, so he was
trying to conceal them the best he could. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, he would not, with being him did to the girls, he wouldn't want to be seen back on the trail, pants being after.
Now, I've got a question for you, Randy. Now, what do you think about this this DNA situation with the DNA under Libby's fingernails?
With that, when I talked to Carrie, she was telling at the event in Lafayette that she noticed that being DNA under her nails, and if Libby dug her fingernails in the dirt to cover the DNA from the killer, that would have been a better idea. But they haven't done anything. Yep. They ever did.
You would think they would have scraped your nails.
Yeah.
So is it a matter of this person's DNA is not in the system?
Well, it has to have DNA somewhere. Like it's kind of like a fingerprint. It's still a DNA. It doesn't matter what kind of fingerprints you get off your thigh of your hand or whatever. He should be somewhere in the system with DNA. Even if he did one of those 1, 2, 3 history of DNA, it should be still somewhere. Or your DNA doctor's office would. You figure out one of these doctor's office, he's got it like somewhere in the system. His blood will be in the system, knowing the DNA.
I don't know that they go and get it from the doctor's office, though.
Yeah, Randy, but
go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, but the thing about that is, Randy, is if you've never had a felony charge in the system, there will be no DNA on file.
But if he did something way before the 80s, before DNA, then he wouldn't be anything on DNA.
Right.
So its DNA didn't start until like mid 2009. And that's when it got started. But yeah, if he did something in the past, if he had a teenage criminal record back then no one would know. It'd be covered. His case would be sealed, and nobody would know who this guy was.
Right. And like Worldwide Crime just said, maybe the fingerprints are partial and smeared, so they're not getting a 7-point hit on the fingerprints either.
Correct there. That is correct. If you can't get a 7-point match on one fingerprint, you're not going to be able to match it.
Yeah. So
it was in the 1990s is when Indiana started taking DNA samples from felons. Okay. Well, that's good information to know.
So JP has a sealed juvenile record. Okay.
Oh, JP has a sealed juvenile record. I don't know. I just don't think it's JP.
I don't think so. I don't think it's JP either.
No, he was just out there doing pictures, taking pictures and stuff.
I think he's odd.
Yeah, but if he doesn't have a felony on that record, there's not going to be any DNA on file.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't know what kind of record he has as a juvenile because it's sealed. And they're not going to... So if he did commit a big crime when he was a juvenile, it's sealed and nobody's going to know what that was. And they're not going to have any DNA in the system either because they won't put it in there if it's sealed.
So basically,
but you can get a court order to have that record unsealed.
Yeah, but a judge has to sign off on it.
More than likely they would for this case because it's a double homicide.
Yeah. So basically, if this killer who did the girls had a juvenile record, they
and JP just acts like a loony anyway. He was just making up stories from left to right, and nobody could believe any story he was saying.
I'm gonna let these guys talk, and then we're gonna go back and look at all the questions that we have missed, and then we'll answer them for you guys because that's important to me. So I want to make sure that I read them and answer them. So hang in there till the end. But okay, Shane, any other questions or anything that we need to know from Randy?
I'm good. I think we've covered a lot of area in this talk. And if anybody's got questions, not at all.
Okay. Randy, anything else you want to let us know, or?
Well, if anybody remember, I talked about finding that the McKeans was the one who started the geocaching, and it started in the cemetery where their parents are buried at. So there were like 13 different groups was looking for that particular flag. So that gives another idea how these the McKeans are linked to the trail system.
Okay. So one, they're linked because their parents are in the cemetery.
Yeah.
Two, they're linked because what are they to the trail system? What is their actual title?
I have no. They run the Erie and Wabash Erie Canal.
Okay, they run that committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're the ones that runs the trail system through there.
So to kind of recap, we know one brother was at the north end. We know one brother was in the cemetery.
Yeah.
We know that they wanted to pretty much buy up all that land from everybody.
Yep, at that time.
That lived around there. Go ahead.
The way I'm looking at this case right now is that the authorities are using this catfishing scenario to make the killer think that they're looking for somebody on the Anthony Shots profile, which will make the killer think, well, damn, they're not on my trail, so let them go chase that catfish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that could be a police strategy. And we know that the police lie, so was Keegan Kline really the last person that spoke to Libby? They could have just been telling him that to get him rattled.
Or the other thing is they know somebody else was either in that particular group with Keegan Kline, and they just wanted to put it out there and say, hey, we're looking for you. We got this person.
We need to know who exactly Libby was talking to that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the police are not going to tell us that anytime soon. They're going to keep most of this information to themselves until this is solved. And then it's all going to get released by bits and pieces, like all these other cases, and then officially at the trial.
Yeah.
So I just hope that they can find this piece of crap and catch him and give these families some peace.
Yeah. And I think the family was hoping
that day's coming, guys.
When he got here before 5 years, their family was hoping this would have been over with by now.
Yes. Especially with the video and the audio. I mean, come on.
And what I've noticed about this investigation and a lot of the podcasts and this news online is that people are not looking outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So one of the things that we wanted to bring up is BW, correct? His mother lives over there. He was seen driving up, or he told a relative that he was driving up the private drive at 3 p.m., which none of us had heard previous to this. And that individual was in our chat here on Marvelous Investigates. I was sent a picture, and it shows that he's missing a big toe.
Yes, that's what it is. He's missing a toe.
So
I don't know what happened to his toe, but he's missing a toe.
Okay, so he's missing a toe. So his walk is going to be awkward.
Yeah.
Shane, what do you think about that?
Well, what I think it's awful, what a coincidence is that this person drove up the private drive about 3 o'clock, which is in the time frame of the murders taking place.
Yeah, it was shortly after it was over. Because I think it went quick. I don't think it was drawn out. It was quick.
Yeah, it was quick. It would only take, to me, it took only less than 15 minutes.
And if the man, we believe that Libby was the target because she had the most injuries.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
We also know that she fought like hell.
Oh, yeah.
So whatever end game plan that he had, he did not get to do that end game plan because she fought him.
Yeah, Libby ruined his job.
How long, Randy, would it get from the cemetery to the private drive from drive around?
Oh, for drive around, about depends on the traffic. 10 to 12 minutes.
10 to 12 minutes?
Yes, depends on how.
Depending on the traffic.
Yeah. And if he took the highway around, it'd be less than that. because he
Oh,
was
okay.
kind of in between where the school and the freeway to go around to the Freeman Bridge.
Okay.
I'm just trying to put a time frame here.
And if he took other ways, it'd be like maybe 10 or 15 minutes through the back roads to get over there.
So somewhere between 12:13 or 2:13 and say 2:35, the girls were already dead.
Yeah. So if the girls got over there at Ron Logan's property at 2:15,
which is kind of aligned with the time frame. If they were dead by 2:35, 10 to 15 minutes, you're getting in that area at 3 o'clock and pulling up the drive.
right?
All right. So do you guys mind if we go back and take some questions and get your thoughts on their questions? Okay. Where did we leave off here?
What is Boo's question?
Which one? I'm trying. Was one of the girls rumored to have a meeting with law enforcement to report something?
No.
No.
That's the first I've heard of that.
Now, why would she go to the police station? They would just gone to their house.
Right.
So that would be wrong.
Okay. Ms. Marvelous, what is your theory of the crime? So we're telling everybody not to just jump on the bandwagon for the criminal of the week, the flavor of the month. We're telling everybody to think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
What is one of the biggest motives somebody would have?
Why we're telling you to think out the box, because of the fact that law enforcement will lie to make the suspect thinking they're chasing another lead and diverted it off of him.
Right.
And that's why I'm thinking out of the box, look at everything at the scene, trail and everything.
Right. So, especially since in that press conference, they said we were on to something in the beginning. You can't take out any of those earlier people now because they said that.
Yep.
So anybody that they were initially looking at those first few weeks is still a POI in my book. What do you think, Randy?
I still say the same thing. I agree with you.
Okay.
That's why I was saying you got to think outside the box.
Yep. So the box.
Exactly.
The box geocache was taken by a man very soon following murders by a man. Cannot recall who precisely. Okay. Keegan also said he was the last person to talk to Libby before she died. Okay, Faye, here's the thing is, Keegan only said that he was the last person to talk to Libby before she died because the police are the ones that told him that.
Correct. They might have been saying that to him to see if they can get information out of him.
So they could have lied to him because that is a tactic from police. They could have lied to him and then tried to get him to believe that so that he would give them more information.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're saying you got to kind of pay attention to everything that's said and go back and look at the different contexts of what is being said.
We have to look at what was the time he talked to Libby on that day.
Right. Or did he even talk to Libby on that day?
Yeah.
We don't know because the police aren't telling us when this supposed conversation took place.
Yeah, it's true.
I heard today that KK may have been communicating with Libby and telling someone else where the girls were that day. That is a possibility. But I don't want everybody to be stuck on this KK thing because that's putting you in the box.
Okay, there's two things we have
That's
to
why
compare.
I keep saying we need to know exactly who Libby was talking to the day the murders.
Yep.
Yeah. The only two way people would know is people in the home or.
I'm going to address.
Oh, hang on a minute, Shane.
I'm gonna answer a question for Fangirl. She's asked, why didn't they arrest KK for 3 years? The reason is because just because somebody says they did something doesn't mean it's true. They have to investigate first
and prove it. Yep. Okay, Randy, go ahead and finish.
Now, the only way that somebody knows the girls were going to the bridge that day, since Libby was up all night, whoever she was talking to at her grandmother's place, okay? Or if somebody overheard Becky talking in the background and Libby blurted out, "Hey, can we go to the bridge?"
Mm-hmm.
That would be the other reason who was on her, who the grandma was talking to, or who Libby talked to in her room during being up all night.
Right.
So those are the two situations of who overheard them. They're going to the bridge.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Okay, Mark, do you want to go on to the next question? Or comment? Jacqueline says a matter of just a few days, I believe. As far as taking the geocaching box, I'm thinking. Go ahead. Oh, wow, I never thought of that. That's a really good point about sleeping in. Yep. I hope they have subpoenaed the user's access to the Dropbox. If they can find them and if they can figure out who those individuals actually are, that's one of the hard parts about this pedophile ring, is finding out who the usernames belong to in order to get access to them. Randy, what is your theory of the crime?
Well, right now, I have no theory of the crime, but the problem is it obviously they try to kill Libby. That is the prime suspect at this point of how much they did towards Libby. So I think that's what it is. Libby was the prime suspect of the murder, and Abby was just the innocent person in this crime.
Person in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yep. Shane, what's your, what are you leaning towards for a theory?
Well, like I said, they used the Libby. Whoever it was knew Libby, and I believe Abby was at the place at the wrong time also.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of curious about the land.
What are you curious about?
I'm curious if it could be a setup to take Ron Logan and take the fall for the murder so they can get the property.
Okay, so in the beginning we talked about there's gold in the river, the Monon River.
And it's making me wonder if it has anything to do with Ron Logan's land.
So if CM and his family owned all of that land, it would be landlocked. Nobody else would have access to it. And they could actually go and mine the gold out of the river and off the land.
And if there is
whoever the person was that had contact with Libby had contact with the other individuals also.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What do you think of that, Randy?
I agree with Sean with that. Definitely.
Yeah, you agree with Shane?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've actually been down this rabbit hole a bit, and I'm on the same train you guys are on this one. We've looked at a lot of theories.
Yeah.
Shane and I have been talking all week, and I bet you we blew through, I don't know, 10, 15 theories already, and we keep coming back to this one. And I think there's a reason for that. What's that? Can you repeat that?
I said that it's the only theory that's making sense right now.
Yeah.
Because I did some research on pedophiles, and I did some research on pedophiles, and 21% of pedophiles actually commit murder.
Oh.
There were a lot of pedophiles in the search that day, too.
Yes. Yeah. All right, let's go back to some questions here. The geocache one, I'm not sure what your question was, Teresa. Can you ask it again if you remember? Keeley, the professor.
Keeley the professor. That's a new professor.
Oh no, that's Jacqueline Keeley, the professor.
Or the professor?
Yeah.
What about the professor?
Jane knows a lot about the case. So does Randy.
And another thing that I've been trying to do is trying to get a copy of the actual affidavit that was presented to HLN during the special. And I am having a hard time getting a prosecutor to return my calls to request copies of that affidavit.
And why is that? Why is HLN the only one that can get their hands on a copy of this affidavit?
Because HLN has got attorneys working for them doing that job for them.
I'm sure they can.
They can
threaten them.
Paperwork.
Yeah, and they can threaten them. They've got a little bit more clout than we do. Does anyone think Anthony Schatz posted he would be there, or Libby friend told her about Anthony Schatz, both catfished by him, posting about being there, and they wanted to go see if he was there?
No, I don't think.
A copy of that affidavit is going to answer a lot of questions about who was in contact, when, and where, and how.
Yeah, exactly. I think Libby was lured out there somehow. Was it by this catfishing ring?
Well, the one question is, Keaton would take him longer to get to that bridge.
Yes.
And the killer was already there.
Right.
So if Keaton talked to her before leaving the house, Keaton wouldn't have been there.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Keegan would have never made it there in time.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Shane Lynn says you're so knowledgeable.
A lot of research and a lot of studying.
Let's just let this one go by the side, Teresa. We're good. I talked to Bruce. Let's just get along. We'll be good. Okay. What's next? No one under the bridge. I think people are lying or hiding information. What do you think, Randy?
That's what I think is going on. They know who it is, and they're covering up for them.
Oh, definitely. When I was out there,
especially if this person's got is a prominent figure in the community, they're going to cover for him. You know the rumors that go around about Delphi and Carroll County, they're corrupt.
Well, I know I went up there several times. The timeline doesn't fit. So somewhere along the timeline, somebody's lying, and everything should have went in line. But yeah, somebody
in a flow.
Yeah.
Yep. Probably like professor, but uncertain. Okay. Undergarment was under bridge, I thought. Well, I think in the audio it did say undergarments. But does that mean like bra and underwear, or
And
all we know is she was topless.
An hour and a half the other night. When he ran into DM, never is out at his trails, checking things out, making sure it's safe. But he happened to be there the day of the murders.
Yeah.
Okay, so Randy, let me get this right. Shane just said he was never there beforehand, but that day he was there, and then maybe once or twice after, and that was it?
No, he wasn't even there when I was out there. When I went out there several different times, he was not even out there himself. It's quite strange that only that one particular day he was out there.
Yeah, I agree. And he happens to be a witness.
Yes.
That's pretty odd.
Strange, yeah.
Yeah. And the phone was...
Like I said, like Randy said before, if you own those trails, you want to keep them safe. You would be out there making sure the trails are clear of any debris, any trees that fell over, so nobody would get hurt. But now all of a sudden it makes sense to me when he told me that DM had put signs up there saying they're not responsible for any injuries or any accidents on the trail.
Do you know about when, Randy, they put those signs up?
Oh, I think they started to put signs up when that big cliff was sinking down.
Okay, so when that whole side was caving in.
Yep.
Okay.
So they don't really want to get responsible. Something get hurt.
Right.
They should have thought that way before that.
Yeah. Okay, Worldwide Crime says floating in the edge of the water, I think. Thank you, moderators, for taking care of that spammer.
Especially if they were walking the creek on the 13th, they should have found something right there and then.
Yeah.
That's what's got me so puzzled is that they didn't find anything on the first day.
Right. So Boo Boo says, do we even know if anyone was wet?
The girls' pants would have been wet, and the killer's pants would have been wet. His shoes would be wet, socks would be wet. So as high as that water was, it went up to their knees. So the bottom of where the knees down would be wet.
Likely, yes.
Yeah. So you're right, Randy. The pants and socks and shoes would have definitely been wet.
Yep.
Okay, next one. Abby was wet for one, I believe. I think they all were wet.
Yeah, they were all
they
wet.
had to. They had to if they crossed the river.
There's no doubt that they had to have been wet if they walked across the creek. There is no doubt, a 100% fact that they were wet.
Yeah.
Yep.
And especially...
go ahead.
Especially if the killer did what they did to the girls, he would have blood on his jacket, blood on his clothes. And you have the two witnesses. McKean says, "Oh, I didn't see any of that." Well, that was not the killer. Then he saw. So
well, either that or us women know how to get blood out of our clothes.
But if he was that much of a hurry to get out of there,
right,
he would not do that.
But one of the ways that he could get blood out of his clothes very easily is to go back in the river for a few minutes and just rub at his clothes and it would come out.
Well, then,
because that water is cold.
Well, then his jacket and his shirts and stuff would still be wet.
Right, but then his jacket and everything would have been wet.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of is unless he took his jacket off and put it somewhere nearby.
Mr. King said he was wearing that blue jacket and walking past him.
Well, he could have taken it off at the site when he went to kill the girls and then put it on to cover any blood and then just got his pants re-wet and got the blood off the pants. But who knows?
The image of BG, if you look at the way he dressed as an older person, because if it was a younger person, younger people try to dress with the new fad or the new fashion.
Yeah. Okay, what question do we have next? I hate to revisit and be a bug, but what about this ravine with human remains?
What ravine of the human remains?
I haven't.
Someone asked the question earlier if it was possible if there were more human remains in the ravine.
So, the only ravine I know where human remains were found were the girls. Correct, Randy?
Yes.
That was the only ravine where any kind of body or body parts were found.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Where did this question come up to ask about the remains of any other human? There was only 2 murders on that day. That was it.
Well, I think that's why they're asking about if there was human remains anywhere else on the land.
Nope.
Not that we know of.
Yeah.
Okay. Unless they weren't killed till later that night or middle of the night. I can't see that guy keeping them alive
No, because
that long.
That would be obvious that the killer would have been seen. Especially if that in the middle of the night, there were still people there.
No, that would have never happened because they had the search party out there, and according to Libby's grandmother, they were out there like fireflies out in the woods searching.
Right.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And they would see extra flashlights. They would have flashlights where they were.
Yeah, she said it looked like a lot of fireflies because of all the flashlights in that area.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I have never even thought of this, and I'm sorry to suggest this, Libby was undressed. Were her clothes all accounted for? We don't know that. All we know is that one shoe was on the south side by the river. Randy says one shoe was on her, and that there were clothes by the bridge, I guess, according to the audio. We don't know exactly what was found and what wasn't found of hers.
Yeah. The officers who were on the scene was the only ones who would know what they got that day.
Yeah. TTM Fangirl says next morning they may have been able to see the clothes. They should have been able to see the clothes.
Yeah, they should be able to see all the
that
clothes.
Evening.
Yeah, during when it was like
it was dark. It was light enough for them to see those clothes.
7 o'clock, between 6:30 and 7, it got dark. So before that, they would have saw clothes. If they walked on that bridge, they can see down the north end, in where those logs are.
Like I said before, if they were walking that creek on the 13th, they should have seen them at that time.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. He would be tracked.
Right.
Okay. Next one. In my opinion, she dropped it and he had to get out of there and didn't have time to look for the phone. I agree.
That's a good possibility, yes.
I don't even think he saw the phone drop.
He was just in a hurry to get to those 2 girls.
Right. I think maybe she threw the phone and he couldn't bother looking for it as he had to chase them across the river. That's another.
Well,
he may have seen it, he may not have.
There was a lot of leaves on that day, so all the leaves could
Yep, and hurried to do what he had to do and get the hell out of Dodge.
Yep. So when it fell out of her pocket, or if she threw it, if it slid under leaves, he wasn't going to find it.
No.
Go ahead. Wasn't the... Oh, we did that one. Okay. I think things were getting really scary at that point where the shoe came off. Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I'm pretty sure those girls knew they were in trouble.
They hadn't picked up speed, so they tried enough to get across that creek to do whatever they could.
Yeah.
Even though the girls knew how to swim, and if it was a little more higher up, they probably could have swam away from them.
Yeah. But I don't think it was high enough for that.
No.
Especially where they supposedly crossed by the more shallow end.
It was only knee high to them.
Yeah, knee high.
Yeah.
No one saw BG. It's a possibility that all these things that we've heard as far as people seeing him, they never did see him.
No.
Especially if the theory of him going through the cemetery is correct. Then nobody at the trails would have seen him.
Because Toby didn't check the cemetery before entering that day. So he just assuming the crime scene from the bridge, he didn't think of any other crime scene that would happen.
Well, the one thing that got me is the lady with the dogs. 1 minute she's saying that she was in her kitchen and let the dogs out the back door.
Right.
Then her second story was that she walked the dogs to the bridge.
Yep.
When I didn't know about the first story of just letting the dogs out.
Doug Rice asked the dog lady. He was told by her that she let her dogs out, and she saw 4 people with hooded sweatshirts, dark hooded sweatshirts that day. And that's what she told Doug Rice. Then interviewed Anthony saying, well, I'll walk my dogs to the bridge. So there's 2 conflict stories there by her.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. They would be able to track a phone.
Well, the phone was already dead, so they couldn't try to turn it on that night. They've been trying until 2:30 in the morning.
Right. I think she ran out of her shoe. I've seen that with other crime scenes. Yes, and you got to remember it had snowed, but I mean it's winter time, but it was unusually warm, so the snow was melted, but that area would have been muddy down by that river.
Yeah, especially if you try to get on the banks on Monrogan, there'll be muddy shoes and sliding down. It'd be hard to get on his land.
Right. Okay, go ahead. Oh, that could be. He might have smashed it and thought it was good. True. Mike Patty said Libby's phone pinged all over town. Okay, so Mike, or Randy, tell me if what I know is true.
Okay.
There's only a couple cell towers in Delphi.
Right. And
2.
Mike Patty just understood telling to the news. The phone didn't ping at all around town. It just pinged between one tower is on close to where Ron Logan's house is. There's a tower there, and there's a tower where Abby's home is.
So if you are by Ron Logan's home, you're going to ping off of one tower. If you're over by the bridge, your phone could probably ping off of either one. So it doesn't mean they left that area. It just means that the town's 2 towers are accessible from that area, and the phone could ping off of both of them.
So that phone wasn't traveling anywhere around town. It was there on Kay Weber's property.
Right. Okay.
Otto's got a question.
Yeah.
Otto, what's your question?
Actually, I saw one from Otto. down. Automobile. Oh, wow, we got a lot of catching up to do. Okay. Let's see if we can find it here. I know I saw it.
Oh, do you have to ask again? I asked a question for Randy. Where was it?
I know, I saw it.
Let me go back here myself. I'll look and see.
Okay, we missed it somewhere.
I'll go back and see.
Go back up. It's automobile.
Oh, any thoughts of the killer escaping to Wilson's Bridge, Randy?
Yes, that was going to be one of my
questions. Longer way around Otto? No, I wouldn't think he would go that way. It's still behind houses. The fastest way for him to go would be the cemetery. Yeah, it would be the cemetery, not the Wilson's Bridge.
Okay. Kat, where did anyone get the idea that these girls were killed before noon? Nobody has said that these girls were killed before noon. What we have said is we believe that BG, the killer, may have been there around noon.
Yeah.
Case, he was there early.
Yeah, he had to get there before the girls did. So that tells me he knew Libby was coming to that area before noon.
Or she was going to try like hell to get there.
Yeah. If she had a car, she would have beeline there that fast.
Yeah. Let's see.
And I want to address Kat on that question. That's why I keep saying, people, before you start speculating and start questioning, you might want to do your research on timelines and everything that took place from then until now. And you'll get the factual information that's been put out there.
Right. And Kelly Aaron says, just think, before they even left the driveway, the killer knew what they were doing and what he was going to do to them.
Yeah. He had already planned. Murder.
Yeah, he had a
first degree murder. He knew what he was going to do.
Okay, Boo Boo says, what about the Mustang, y'all? That old lady didn't lie. What Mustang?
There was no Mustang.
Boo Boo. That's what I believe. They had it planned out.
Yeah.
There was no Mustang.
I was going to say, there's no Mustang there.
There was no vehicle of Mustang parked on the Kate Weber's land.
So, Faygirl says, TTM fangirl, isn't that so bad as of her?
That's why I believe that who was ever in contact with Libby was in contact with two or three other people at the trail at the time.
Right.
Could have been. I just love Libby's bravery. You got that right.
Now, Boo said there may still be a doll laying around. Where at? What'd she talk about that one?
She says it was partially pulled over her head.
What partially?
What was?
The neon tie-dye.
The neon tie-dye shirt?
No, it was. She had no shirt on her. Nothing on her. Everything up from the top was gone. She had no shirt, no nothing on.
That was Abby's hood on her. When Abby was propped up against the tree, she had her hood pulled up over her head.
Yeah. And that's how they say she looked like she was dressed up like to be a doll look. When people say she looked like a doll.
Yeah. So it's Faye says, if he hasn't committed a crime, it's not going to be in the system, meaning the DNA. And then she goes, it's in the system now. Right. We just got to match the DNA with the guy now. Maybe the thing.
It just depends on how degraded the DNA is.
Yeah.
And like they said, it was Kelsey's hooded sweatshirt that Abby was wearing. So everybody could be touching that sweatshirt, what Abby was wearing that day. So they wouldn't know who is the real killer, if there was.
Right. And Sophie, going back to this, you said BTK was caught from a search warrant served on his adult daughter's doctor's office. They already had some proof pointing towards him. They just needed the DNA link. So that's why they got the warrant to go to the doctor's office to get her DNA to see if it matched his match to the crimes. But the police cannot just go to a doctor's office and say, give me the DNA for this person. They're not going to give it to him because of the privacy and everything. They would actually have to go get a court warrant for it.
Now, my understanding is that everybody that's been interviewed and talked to and statements taken, that they've all lawyered up now.
Do you know how that is, Randy, for the people in that area? Have most of them gotten lawyers versus talking to the police?
I couldn't tell you if they got lawyers, but I know they were. FBI was going door to door in Delphi, Indiana. My friend had the FBI showed up at his door. So they were looking at all the male people in Delphi, Indiana. Then starts expanding out towards other towns and smaller towns that say, hey, see if we can go beyond. But at this point, all they got was people interviewed or asked these people to do a DNA testing to see what they can come up with, or do a lie detector test.
Right.
So basically, that's all they could do. But if they got asking about, would you do this? That's probably where they will come in with a lawyer and say, hey, I'll talk to my lawyer before I do the DNA, the lie detector test, and interview and make sure they're safe on telling them what they need to know where they've been.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's mentally ill, but he's not a killer. JP, I'm assuming. Could this have been some type of role play by a disturbed juvenile acting out a game or TV fantasy?
No,
anything's possible on that question.
I would think if somebody has that mental problem like that to do, then his childhood would be really bad.
And you would think he may have done something similar, or he would have gotten caught in some way, I would think, if he was a juvenile, because their brains aren't fully developed. They don't realize, how to get away with stuff, and it's more impulsive with them than strategic.
If he did this before in his teenage years or something like that, and he hasn't got over it, or either him have a mental issue from some past war or whatever it was that could still be in his system to do this.
All right, let's see. Next question. I'm really far behind, so I'm going to try to catch up here. Sorry, Robert Ives said there was a lot of physical evidence at the scene. I think JP witnessed it, saw something awful.
Well, I think he was there taking pictures. But if there was a lot of people taking pictures, somebody should.
I don't think JP. No, I have a hard time believing that.
He was there taking pictures, but if somebody actually took a picture of the killer that day, they have it somebody needs to take it in to the police and say, you have this photo of this killer who we're looking for.
Yeah.
And we might get somewhere.
Let's see here. I think he desperately wishes he was there that day so he could help identify BG.
Yeah.
Yeah? All right, I'm looking for a question here. Hi, Stacy Skinner. Hi, everybody that's come in since we started. Indianapolis, starting in January 2018, anyone arrested for a felony offense in the state of Indiana will be required to submit a DNA sample. Okay. Let's see. Randy Gravitt, what are your thoughts on KK's father?
Not much.
Not
really
much.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have. I am with Sleuth Intuition Theory. It was filmed. Okay, Sean, Randy, Sean, I'll let you go first. Do you think this was filmed?
No.
No, not really. If it was filmed, he would have been filming
I don't
himself.
believe it was filmed because that's just a chance of getting caught.
Yeah, if he was filming, he'd be. You wouldn't see him holding a phone in his hands facing Libby, filming him back.
Yeah. Okay. Mustang or red Charger with black stripes?
And where is it supposed to be parked at? I have not heard of any of those. There was no vehicles.
It was plain as day that BG had a kill kit on him.
Yeah, he had it all underneath his jacket, ready to do first-degree murder.
I thought I heard this. It was parked on the Freedom Bridge parking area.
No.
I haven't heard that.
No.
So here's another question. Anyone think this could have been a possible human trafficking situation gone wrong?
Could be. But the car would have be real close if it was.
I don't see that.
But if there was no vehicle that close for them to throw both those girls in real quick to get out of there.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Yep. Maybe he truly was hacked and they wanted him to be pretending to still be doing things with Anthony Shots to see if the person would access his activity again. Total guess there, could be way off.
Yeah, that's the reason why they put out the ESA by state troopers, because they wanted him to keep going to that site and see if they could get somebody using it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there's two possibilities here. I think that we could have BG the killer, and then we could have a pretty prominent pedophile ring in your area, Randy, and they're trying to kill two birds with one stone and crack both of them at the same time.
Well, so far, the only thing we have around here is more drugs, and that's the only thing we have in this area is drugs. Since it comes out of Chicago, and that's the only thing that is allowed come through here as much as drugs in this area.
But you do have a lot of people that are in the area too that are doing this porn stuff and trying to contact girls online.
Especially
so it could be a pedophile ring.
Like I was saying earlier, your typical pedophile ring don't commit murder.
Right.
The chances are pretty slim.
So basically, like Weaver and them are all, we got a lot of pedophiles around here. So, yeah, but they wouldn't go that far as murder. But if there is someone actually out there or willing to go do more, then yes, they might be a hired hand to kill somebody if they wanted to.
Yeah. In True Crime Maria, I completely agree with this statement. Libby is innocent. It doesn't matter if she was talking to a catfisher or not. She did not deserve to become a victim and be murdered.
Yeah.
So she is absolutely a victim. Her and Abby both.
She was enjoying a nice warm day. It snowed the night before.
Right.
And it was cold. And it felt warm that day on that 13th.
Yep. I feel it was their anger towards Libby because of how she fought back, and maybe Libby recording on her phone and him not finding it since she threw it. Could be. Let's see here.
There's all kinds of possibilities out there of something and what it could have happened, but we'll never know until we actually get this person in custody and find out exactly what took place, why it happened, who set it up, and what the purpose of the whole deal was for.
Right. Faye, I love this comment. Both Marvins had their heads tilted like, what? At the same time. So cute. We do that a lot. Isn't there some kind of pipeline on Logan's property that is connected to something worth money? I forgot what it's connected to. Yes, Lollipop.
Yeah, he's got stuff that people use for drugs, like some type of liquid that can make into drugs, something like that. And so,
But it's also a good possibility he's got gold in that river and on his land too.
Well, we know that he played as kids back then with his cousins. Ron played with his cousins back then in that whole entire area, and his kids played down there. So,
right. Yep. Randy said something about dolls being at the scene. Is that true?
No, there's no dolls. Somebody asked me question sometime last year and saying that people are saying there were dolls next to Libby and Abby, and I said no, because there was no dolls down there or teddy bears down there at all.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what this comment means. What does Ron Logan giving warrants mean?
Ron Logan had a warrant for on his arm, and he lied to the police. So, and that's the other thing. He lied to the police, so he had a warrant for his arrest because he broke his probation.
But let's make sure that everybody understands this too. Ron Logan had to live on that property, otherwise he was going to lose it. So if Ron Logan had gone to jail and stayed in jail, he would have lost that property because he was not permanently living on it at the time.
Yeah.
And there's people in the past that have wanted to buy that property.
Yeah. True crime.
The agreement of the reverse mortgage.
The reverse mortgage, yes.
Correct, which means that his agreement was that he had to live on that property. Doesn't mean he could have subrented it out. He couldn't do anything. He had to be the only one to live on that property. And if he was in jail, he would have lost it.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know
so Jill says Brad Weber is my cousin and his mom, Kay Weber Sanders, is my aunt. Correct. All right, we're going to
get to the...
And we all know who the people were that were trying to buy his land. There was a purpose why they wanted to buy his land.
So TTM Fangirl is saying, I'm thinking after his death, he instructed his family to provide all documents to HLN. And she's talking about Ron Logan giving that affidavit to HLN. Hi, Otto. Good to see you. I don't think KK involved, but someone else using his account.
True Crime Maria says, Rainey, how do you know if there were dolls or not? The answer is the family knows. And that's where the answer came from.
See, you won't find a whole lot about Ron Logan through the news outlets or anything like that, because he was such a private person.
Yeah.
No, KK is not involved. It's either that somebody cloned his account or not.
And then Jill Moser said the cut off toe of Brad Weber. It has been that way for years, and he was driving down the private drive around 3 p.m. Why did Kelsey delete stuff from Libby's social media when this was the beginning of a homicide investigation? I can't say.
I think because of what people were looking on her Libby's social media accounts, and I think they're trying to keep private.
Right. Okay. John Kelly also said about undergarments being by Creek. Yep. Something with his body figure is bugging the hell out of me. True Crime Maria says, I agree. I think this is maybe the first kills of an organized killer who may have made a few mistakes. Okay, let's see here. What if the killer did what he came to do, then moved the girls till after they called off the search and moved them back? Well, we were talking about that, Stacy, and what Randy said is that there were people out there pretty much all night searching.
Yep.
In different groups throughout the night until the next morning.
Yeah, because there was a news reporter lady out there at 4 a.m. on that day from Channel 13 News, and older lady came and asked, are they still searching? She said yes. So the old lady went out there too, started helping early in the morning. So there were people still going or leaving out there.
Right. Flannel shirt guy passed him near the start of the bridge after the murders, but I don't believe he was wearing the blue jacket at that time. Well, right now tonight we're questioning whether flannel shirt guy actually saw him. Yeah.
And down he saw the killer.
Right. Go ahead. I think this was done by an experienced killer. Okay. It makes lean toward the someone wanting his property theory. Yeah. Exactly. Otto says, go ahead with that one. Any thoughts of the killer escape? Oh, we did that one. Okay, we finally found it, Randy.
Okay, cool.
Otto's question. We finally found Otto's question.
I don't think he was done by an experienced killer because he made some mistakes at the crime
Yep.
scene.
Yeah. Okay, keep going. I've always thought Libby may have been targeted. Yep. A man was found dead in Deer Creek, but don't think it was that day. No, it was not that day.
Mm-hmm.
That was later on, right, Randy?
Right.
No,
Those
nothing
girls
to do with property.
Those girls should have been found on the 13th that day.
I agree.
And Becky was so much afraid that the girls got hurt so much that day.
Yep. I think a body washed up on Sugar Creek or something like that, not where the girls were. It was mentioned in the very first press conference. Do you remember hearing anything about that, Randy?
No, not really. I was there the first press conference. I didn't hear any of that.
Geek Mom, are you talking about the one that they had out at the trail? So, okay, keep going. Let's see here. The background noise is Shane on the phone. I think one of the police said the phone was found near the bodies. If he didn't know he was recorded, why would there be a reason to mess with the phone? But now Randy's saying that the phone was found on the south side by the river, by the shoe.
Yeah.
The phone was found on the west side of the river on the Weaver property.
Right. Let's see here. I'm looking for questions here so I can get caught up. So it says, True Crime Maria, I don't believe flannel shirt guy claimed a CBG either. Not if he went through the cemetery like we're thinking.
That's why I believe he might have been one of the lookouts at the north end of the bridge.
Ah, okay. Sheen, there's a question for you. What do you think on Leaker? Do you believe it?
I watched some of that last night with Matt, and some of the stuff that was brought out that she was leaking was supposedly confirmed, but not 100% confirmed or legit to where we know about it.
Okay. Randy, what about the Ford 150? That false?
Ford F-150. Which Ford F-150? One in the cemetery?
Was there a Ford 150 in the cemetery?
There was an orange pickup truck. It was
An orange pickup?
Pat Brown's pickup truck was in the cemetery.
Okay.
Boo says, Ring, if there was no dolls at the crime scene, why does your video show
The one that was supposedly seen at the...
Go ahead, Shane. What? Go ahead. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Randy. Finish your thought.
Okay. Boo asked me a question. If there was no dolls at the crime scene, then why does your video show one? Which video was that, Boo?
At least 4 people at the bridge that day.
Okay. All right, Shane, Randy was talking. Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that question and that answer? How many people at the bridge that day?
My answer is I believe there was one watch out at the north. There was one person watch out at the cemetery. I believe there was possibly 2 or 3 people at the bridge at that time. There had been a lookout at the north. Yeah, somebody asked me how many people. Yes, I believe there was. You have Cheyenne, you have JP, you have DM, and then you had supposedly the lady with the walking the dogs.
Okay. How many people do you think were involved in the crime?
3.
Because you have to. Libby was a pretty hefty girl. You almost have to take more than that to hold her down.
Right.
Abby's not that heavy, so yeah, they'll be fighting Libby more than anything else.
In the actual crime, I believe 3 people.
All right, let's see here. Does anyone remember the name of the website that had info about the murders and has a weird name? I think it starts with an A and maybe Latin or something.
Is it that website that me and you were looking at the other day where they were actually talking with the detective and they were putting the information, the detective was...
I don't know. No, I don't think that started with an A, and I don't think it was Latin, but I'd have to find it again. LE needs to answer the pings. Okay? I saw Abby laying on the ground with a long, shiny knife stuck in her chest, not sitting up. Sorry, been away a while, but listening. So, Jacqueline, you were there when the girls were found? Oh, let's see here. It's Actus Reus, by the way. Okay, I've never seen that one. I thought that might have been where I last read that Anna SS, but it wasn't. It's a great website, though. I'm going to write that one down so I can look at it, because that one I have not seen.
Yeah, somebody...
Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, somebody had forwarded that website to me, and I reviewed it, and they actually were having a conversation with the Indiana State Trooper sketch artist, and it went into a little bit of detail to things that took place, and I really didn't read a whole lot of it. It was just...
Otto passed away, sadly. Otto who? Tech death. There's no 10-foot stuffed panda. No. Randy, How do you know if there were dolls or not?
They're not there. Somebody asked me that question, and I asked the family. They were never there next to the girls.
Okay. Oh, it's about the guinea pigs. Okay. I'm sorry you lost your guinea pigs. Let's see here. So now Logan's property is up for grabs. How does that work now that he's deceased?
It's up to his family now, his son, figure out what to do with it.
But with the reverse mortgage, will he even get the opportunity to decide?
He would have to go through the lawyers, his lawyers, and see what they can do to try to save it or not.
Try to keep it in the family or not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not believing any rumors about the scene, but I'm also not ruling anything out. Ellie has made it clear that it was freaking bizarre. Yeah, exactly. Being from a small town, I don't believe that dolls and giant stuffed bears and such could ever be kept quiet had they existed. I think that would be pretty hard. That's very unusual to have a giant panda or a bear at a crime scene.
Yeah, it was never there. There's none. There was no bears or anything like that.
All right, let's see. I'm looking for more questions here. Randy, if there were no dolls at the crime scene, then why does your video show one? What video are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't want
Talking about that ISP flyover of the crime scene. It shows a teddy bear standing there.
No, there's no
That
teddy
might
bear.
be an illusion that you guys are seeing.
There's no teddy bear. Oh, in my video. It's in my video. What video is it? There's only teddy bears at the north end of the bridge after the girls were found. People were bringing bears and flowers. That was after the bodies were found by the bridge. And if you look at the time stamp on it, you'll see the date on it.
All right, I'm looking here. Sergeant Holman tells us investigators recovered more audio from Libby's phone, which was found with the girls at the crime scene. Indy Star on 8/14/2017. Do you think they lied or Holman was mistaken?
I don't know. They know, and the family knows how long was recorded, so they will not tell us. And like Carter said, they're not going to tell how long it is of Libby record. If she did anything before, if she took any pictures before she got on the bridge of what she took then, or when did she start taking photos? Besides, all we got is the bridge photos.
Yep. I'm looking, scanning here. The interview with the artist who drew the young guy sketch was with the Indy Star. Yes. I just read that. I may have missed it, but is Garrett still considered a suspect after those online interviews? I
Don't know at
don't
this
consider
point.
him a suspect. Here we go. Do you think BG is married? And if so, thinks she looks anything like Libby?
I think he's not even. Either he might think it's his children. I don't know on what his wife would look like or what children he look like.
Yeah, anything is possible. Unfortunately, we just don't know at this point.
Yeah.
Why has Derek German not ever done any press conferences, never commented at any stage with his history, and that he was picking them up?
To me, I think he just want to stay out of it. Like most of the family, they really don't want to hear what's on the case. And it could, like they said, they could just leak it out somewhere that they're used to saying something between Becky and Carrie. Same thing. If somebody told them, they could leak out what the police have. So basically, it could be the same way of Derek. He doesn't want to hear anything until they got everything in one case.
Well, and you got to remember too that Derek doesn't know if he was there when his daughter was in the process of being murdered. So there's a lot of psychological things that he's got to go through. And he's not going to make a statement so that anybody can twist it around or anything like that. He's being careful and he's taking care of himself. And I don't blame him, because the minute he goes public, everybody is going to be on him like crazy with questions and you know, I don't know how he would handle that.
Yeah. There was a lot of things at the beginning that people talked about. What he just got out of jail, so and all of a sudden this happened to his daughter. So there's a lot of things that it'd be hard for him to do. I'm wondering, was it his fault or what? But
Right.
he just
Well, and knowing that it was close to the time that he was there,
yeah,
I'm, regret, guilt of not being there soon enough to get him and
half hour,
find him.
yeah, half hour after gotten there, the girls all of a sudden disappeared.
Right. Okay, go ahead. Kelsey said if Derek ever gives an interview that he would let only her do it. She said this on GH. Yes, I do remember seeing that. To tell the truth, I kind of felt weird having hamster gerbil thingy with the same name at Ivy Rose. No offense. Aw. I was watching a criminal profiler, John Kelly.
Yeah.
And he was talking about thinking outside the box and why he would go after Libby. What is it about her? Also brought up maybe his wife resembled her. Yes, Melissa, I just actually listened to that episode. And he thinks it was something about Libby's features that were attractive to him. Yes. Go ahead.
Which one?
Telling what at Trent Hodge, a father who lost his daughter to a tragic murder. I got to go back. Oh. That's fair, but after 5 years, I think Derek's silence is telling that's all. Well, we don't know what kind of psychological issues Derek has after all this, you guys.
Right.
You know, he could have PTSD. There's so many things that could be going on.
I mean, you got to understand, people. If a parent loses a child, who wants to be reminded of their child being murdered? Do you think they really want to talk about it? If it was my daughter that was murdered like that, yeah, I'll give my initial thoughts and opinions and let the investigators do their job. But I don't want to have to keep being reminded of my daughter being murdered in that way.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing is, Becky tells people they really don't want to walk that trail, knowing it brings bad memories, knowing what happened. So that's another thing. They're trying to move on, and that's why they're trying to have this case over with, and so they can move on and say, "Hey, all right, we finally did it, and we'll just leave the family alone."
Well, you got to remember these families haven't even truly grieved because they don't have answers as to what happened. That's why they want this over with. They want it over with so that they can finally grieve, know exactly what happened, take the time to grieve, and then, like Randy said, start moving on.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, we've been on here about 2 hours. It's an early morning for me. I want to thank Randy and Shane for coming on. Any final thoughts, Randy?
I'm just hoping today will be the day that we know they got the killer somewhere across the United States.
Yep. Shane, any final thoughts from you?
Not right now, but I appreciate you having me on. We'll keep on collaborating on this and dig a little deeper into this investigation.
All right.
This case, I should say.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. I'll be with you here shortly.
Okay.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Yeah, like Randy said, you know, my final thoughts on this are there's so many scenarios and so many theories and everything. Just don't get locked into one. Think outside the box. This isn't something special or, you know, small, or it's not something easily solved because otherwise it would be solved. Think out the box and don't box yourself in.
Especially when people come to the walk, they look at that site.
Yes.
We always love to hear their inputs and figure out how did he do this. They look at that and like we're always glad to hear somebody say, "Hey, how did you do this? This is unbelievable."
Right, and we love hearing people's thoughts. You know, everybody that's been there with us in the past and anybody who's new. You know, and we just see a small area. We don't get the full. A lot of us don't get the full area because we're not crossing that bridge. But one of these days, I'm going to.
Once the build the bridge, finally fix the bridge, then we all can figure out. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but that's kind of like why I want you to take me by the cemetery this time, so that I can see that view of it. Because I haven't been there. So.
All right.
Yeah, Mark, you've been pretty quiet here because it's been the three of us. You got any final thoughts?
You basically summed it up. It's like exactly like what you said. So
yeah, so you pretty much agreed. Okay, he'll have better thought process next time, but he usually has some good input and everything, but there's been a lot said here today. So, yeah. Randy, once again, thank you so much. I hope to have you again.
Thank you. And I'll go ahead and get off and let you in your show.
All right. Thank you so much.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Bye. So that was a lot of discussion tonight. If you missed part of it, go back and watch it from the beginning. There was a lot of information given, a lot of different things thrown out there. Thank you so much for your questions tonight. I love it when you guys ask questions and I can try to help answer them or get my panel involved like Randy and Shane to answer them for me. So thank you for joining us. We will probably be going live again this weekend. We've got a few things to do the next few days, but or next couple days. But thank you everyone who's watched. Don't forget to click the thumbs up button if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. And don't forget about our Facebook group page that we have. I send out a lot of information and different articles. You know, we're kind of with everything going on with it being the 5th year anniversary, everything has been Delphi related. But in the next week or so, I'm going to be bringing up some new cases, and one of them is from Wisconsin here. 2 brothers were killed, and I want to introduce you to that case. There's a few other cases that I want to introduce you to. So we'll always talk about Abby and Libby and wanting justice for the 2 of them, but we're going to kind of broaden our horizons and look at some other cases too and some national news that's going on. So I hope you'll join us. Mark, you got anything to say?
Before we leave, thank you for 100 subscribers.
Yes, we have. We've hit 100 subscribers. So thank you so much. Anything else?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Have a good couple of days, and we'll see you this weekend. Bye.